In this video, we will be assembling the Brinly 25-gallon tow-behind sprayer model ST-251BH for lawn tractors and riding mowers. Tools required for assembly: 2 half-inch wrenches, a Phillips head screwdriver, pliers, a tape measure, and eye protection and gloves are recommended. Step 1. Installing the Clevis. Attach the Clevis to the tow bar by aligning the 2 holes on the base of the Clevis with the second and third hole in the end of the tow bar, and insert 2 5/16 inch by 5/8 inch bolts through the Clevis and the tow bar. Secure both bolts in place with a 5/16 inch lock nut. Then install the hitch pin through the open hole in the Clevis and tow bar and secure the hitch pin in place with the cotter pin. Step 2A. Attaching the wand holder clips. Note, there are 2 different types of number 10 screws. The tapping screw with sharper threads will go on the hole on the side of the tank body, and the number 10 round head screw will go in the threaded grommet on the side of the tank. Insert the number 10 screws through the center hole in the wand clips. Slide a nylon spacer over the end of the tapping screw and attach the clip using a screwdriver. Then add the second spacer to the end of the round head screw and attach the clip to the grommet in the tank with a screwdriver. Step 2B. Adding the strainer. Inside the tank on the end of the suction hose, add the strainer to the 1/4 inch adapter at the end of the suction hose. The suction hose is already attached to the pump. Then place the hose back into the tank with the strainer resting in the recess at the bottom of the tank. Step 3. Attaching the wand. Slide a clamp over one end of the 12-foot hose and insert the barb on the base of the wand into the end of the hose. Slide the clamp towards the top of the hose and secure the wand by clamping the clamp down with pliers. Step 4A. Adding the hose swivel nuts. Insert a hose barb through the threaded side of one of the swivel nuts and add the vinyl washer, making sure it is pressed against the backside of the hose barb to ensure that the fitting does not leak. Screw the assembled swivel nut into one of the ends of the dual T valve. Step 4B. Adding the second swivel nut. Repeat the same step with the second swivel nut by inserting a hose barb through the swivel nut and adding a vinyl washer, making sure to press it against the back of the hose barb to prevent leaking. Then screw the assembled nut into the other end of the dual T valve. Step 5A. Adding the wand hose. Attach the wand hose to the hose barb previously installed to the dual T valve by adding a clip to the open end of the 12-foot hose. Then place the hose onto the left side of the dual T valve. Slide the clamp towards the end of the hose over the barb and clamp the hose in place using a pair of pliers. Step 5B. Storing the wand. Wrap the hose around the tank, tucking the hose under the overhangs at the ends and clipping the wand in place so the hose doesn't drag on the ground. Step 6. Attaching the boom hose to the pump. Attach the 38-inch hose to the remaining hose barb in the T valve by adding a clamp to one end of the hose and placing the hose on the other fitting on the T valve. Slide the clamp in place and secure by clamping down with pliers. Step 7. Installing the tow bar. Note, it will be easier to connect the tow bar to the base if the tank is flipped onto its side. Use caution when flipping the tank and base onto its side. Line up the 4 holes in the side of the tow bar with the holes in the side of the metal base of the tank, and pass 2 5/16 inch by 5/8 inch hex flange bolts through one side of both pieces. Add a 5/16 inch whiz-lock nut to the end of both bolts on the inside of the sprayer base. Then pass 2 bolts through both pieces on the other side Add a 5/16 inch whiz lock nut to the end of both bolts on the inside of the sprayer base. And fully attach the Towbar to the sprayer base by tightening all 4 bolts with 2 1/2-inch socket wrenches. Step 8. Adding the wheels. Note, you may want to flip the piece upside down and rest it on the box when adding the wheels. Slide the axle through the holes in the middle of the sides of the base. Then, to one side of the axle, add a spacer, a 5/8 inch flat washer, a wheel with the hub extension pointing towards the tank, another 5/8 inch flat washer, and secure the wheel to the end of the axle by adding the E-ring to the slot in the end of the axle and snapping it in place using a pair of pliers. Repeat this step for the other wheel on the other end of the axle, adding a spacer and a flat washer, then the wheel. Add another washer and secure the wheel in place by adding an E-ring to the end of the axle and snapping it in place with pliers. Step 9. Installing the boom supports. Add a whiz lock nut to the short threaded end of the boom support with the flange facing down. Then slide the short threaded end of the boom support through the hole in the rear of the base and add another 5/16 inch whiz lock nut with the lip facing up towards the base, and brace the 2 nuts against the base using a 1/2-inch socket wrench. Repeat the same step on the other side, adding a whiz lock nut with the flange down to the short end of the boom support and sliding that end through the base, then adding another 5/16 inch whiz lock nut with the flange facing upwards towards the base, and brace the 2 nuts against the base using a 1/2-inch socket wrench. Step 10. Installing the boom extensions. To make sure the boom supports are in the right location, use the 2 outside holes in the center boom bar to align the boom supports. Install another whiz lock nut onto the top threaded section of each of the boom supports with the flanges facing up. Then, slide the boom center bar onto the boom supports through the 2 holes on the ends. Then add the boom extensions to the bolt above the center bar, making sure the bend in the extension is facing outward and down. Secure the boom extensions in place by adding the 2 knobs to the ends of the bolts. Step 11. Connecting the pump supply to the booms. Pass the 38-inch hose through the hole in the center bar and place a clamp on the end. Then fit the hose over the center extension in the triple T barb. Slide the clamp to the end of the hose over the barb and tighten with pliers. Step 12. Adding the nozzles. From the inside, pass the threaded end of a nozzle body through the hole in the boom extension and add a plastic jam nut to the end. Add the nozzle strainer to the nozzle body and place the nozzle tip through the plastic nut before placing the fitting onto the threaded end of the nozzle body. Make sure the nozzle head is pointed downward. Repeat this step on the other side, passing the threaded end of a nozzle body through the hole in the boom extension and adding a plastic jam nut to the end. Adding the nozzle strainer to the nozzle body and placing the nozzle tip through the plastic nut before placing the fitting onto the threaded end of the nozzle body. Also making sure this nozzle head is pointed downward. Step 13A. Adding the boom hoses. Connect the sprayer hoses by placing a hose clamp on the end of a 22-inch hose, sliding the end of the hose over the nozzle body, moving the clamp towards the end of the hose and clamping it in place with a pair of pliers. Repeat this step with the second 22-inch hose, adding a clamp, sliding it over the nozzle barb and securing the hose to the barb by clamping with a pair of pliers. Step 13B. Connecting the sprayer hoses. After sliding another clamp onto the end of the hose, Connect both of the sprayer hoses to the ends of the T-barb and clamp both of them in place with a pair of pliers. Step 14. Setting the boom height. Hitch the Clevis to your towing vehicle and measure the distance between the nozzles and the ground. Adjust the whiz nuts until you get a distance of approximately 16.5 inches from the ground to the nozzle tips. Connecting the pump to the battery. First, remove the battery leads from the battery. Then, attach the red lead of the battery connecting wiring harness and the red lead from your engine to the positive battery terminal. Then, attach the black lead of your battery connecting wiring harness and the black lead from your engine to the negative battery terminal. Note, the battery connecting wiring harness contains a 15 amp blade type of fuse. Note, if the battery is underneath the seat, ensure that both battery terminals and the battery leads do not make contact with the seat. Then, attach the wiring harness switch to the connector terminal end of the battery connection wiring harness, and attach the other end of the remaining terminal lead connector from the wiring harness with switch to the terminal lead connector coming from the pump. If the pump begins to run, use the switch to turn the pump on and off. Congratulations, your Brinly 25-gallon sprayer assembly is complete. Check your manual for application rates, speed calibrations, and a calculation page that can be filled out to determine material amounts needed. To use the wand extension, simply divert the flow of the sprayer to the wand using the T-valve. For questions, call Brinly Customer Service at 877-728-8224. Brinly, making things better since 1839.